Aloha mai kako. My name is Nainoa Thompson, and I'm on board Hawaii's Voyaging canoe Hōkūleʻa. And we're on our way back to one of our homes in the main 8 Hawaiian Islands from a pretty extraordinary trip to Papahānaumokuākea. The trip began with the intention that we have 3 long training sails in the spring and the summer of this year in preparation for a round-trip voyage to Tahiti in the fall, and then really a long voyage around the Pacific, a circumnavigation of the Pacific, and that'll be starting in spring of next year, 2022. It's long because the Pacific is so big. The Pacific is, you can fit all land on Earth into the Pacific Ocean. It's so large, and the circumnavigation of the Pacific is so big that it's longer than the worldwide voyage in distance and time. It'll be 41,000 miles. It'll be 42 months. It'll be 46 countries and archipelagos, and we're not so sure yet, but probably about 300 ports and maybe 100 indigenous territories. It's an extraordinary voyage. So we are training. We are preparing. We are testing our va'a, and right now Hōkūleʻa and Hikianalia have never been better ever in their history on the oceans. We are testing our crew to make sure we have the numbers needed to successfully and safely sail, but we're also testing leadership, captains, watch captains, safety officers, and so forth. And we are training succession leadership, the next generation of those who relatively quickly within the circumnavigation of the Pacific is engineered to take over the leadership of these canoes. So it was all these things that must be accomplished in 2021. So this trip was, it started off as just a training trip focused on preparation for longer voyages, but that's not what happened. We designed it so that our young navigators in their 20s would be able to use the small islands as very distinct targets. These islands provide similar deep sea ocean experience and challenges in navigation. We would be going to dive a number of the islands. Some of them would be the first ocean survey since a hurricane came here in 2018 and caused pretty widespread destruction of the coral reefs in an island called Lalo, and and so we were here to explore. But boy, we weren't prepared to come home with the gifts that we learned from. One is we had a group of 5 young navigators that would be tested on different segments of the voyage, but the primary one was from the island of Nihoa at the end of the main 8 Hawaiian Islands to the first of the 10 northwestern Hawaiian Islands in what we call the Papahānaumokuākea National Marine Sanctuary. And it's what we were looking for was not so much their navigation skill, but their ability to work as a team, to work together, to take care of each other. The values of caring were primary, and they were extraordinary. They dealt with, they were intense, they were supportive, they had doubt, and in the doubt they started to question, but they worked out every single question where they were unified. Bottom line, that it'd be like trying to imagine that you're leaving Kailua Kona and then trying to find an island half the size of Diamond Head in the middle of the ocean, 120 miles of open ocean. From the data from Hikianalia that escorted us, their direct line from Nihoa to Nihoa, that island, is on the is 302 degrees true, and they were like 1 degree off, and just precise, and they were extraordinary. So we saw what can be accomplished when young people come together in a unified way to be a team, to do things that are very extraordinary that many other people in the world can't do. And then we kept traveling to a number of islands, to the spiritual island of Mokumanamana. And we have chosen, as a crew, not to go ashore. The wildlife there is so sacred that every footprint counts, but sometimes you're making the wrong step and you crush shearwater burrow. So we out of respect to life and nature at its best, we have chosen not to interfere with the living system that exists up here in Papahānaumokuākea. Papahānaumokuākea, maybe we need to just talk about it. It's the second largest marine protected area in the world. It is the largest fully protected marine protection area in the world, and it's the only marine protected area that integrates science and integrates culture. And so the other part of the trip, besides the navigation training and the sailing and the sea trials of the canoes and the crew training, was to go to an island called Lalo, formerly called, or also called, French Frigate Shoals. It's a big atoll. It's so big you could fit the island of Ko'olawe in it. You could fit the island of Nihoa into it. It's so large. It's and it's coralline, except for one specific place that has one tip of the mountain of basalt in the middle of it. And we went there because a number of reasons, but to help NOAA and Fish and Wildlife and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and all of the other governing bodies start to help and to better understand this place. So we came to explore, and our exploration took us underwater. In 2018, a Category 3 hurricane called Walaka hit the French Frigate Shoals, and its destruction was pretty widespread. There's not been any ocean underwater diving survey of the island since the hurricane. We're the first, but the satellite data shows widespread coral destruction, and that's what we found. This island was truly hurt. Some of the most pristine reefs are just completely destroyed. There's an island called East Island where 60% of all sea turtles in Hawaii nest and lay their eggs. It's a place where monk seals give birth to their pups and train them. It's a place like an airport for albatross fledglings who are learning how to fly. And that island was completely wiped off, Lalo. It was gone. It was a sand spit. All the sand spit was washed off. And then we went to Turn Island, and that's another island that was not naturally mean, but it was originally a sand spit. But the military in World War II needed it strategically to build a runway to protect us and support us in the Pacific arena. And but it's 3 feet of sand was thrown up on top of that man-made island, and buildings were virtually destroyed. And so what we found was diving in a place called La Perouse. We found toppled over giant table corals, maybe 10 feet across, upside down and broken and dead. But we also found keiki, babies, the same species of fast-growing table corals that are now attaching to many of the stones and the bodies there. It's regenerating itself. We dove and explored our own region of the reef that's been little distorted, and found a 19th century shipwreck. It's pretty extraordinary. Scientists are now going to come up for the next 2 to 3 years and really identify that ship. We found the anchors, we found pots, we found rings, and so it's a very exciting find. And then we also went to East Island, we're guessing 30 to 40% of the original sand area is restored. And there we saw life at its best. I mean, average weight of the sea turtles is 800 pounds. The amount of uluas there just following the boat, the tiger sharks and the birds and all living in this system of life that's restoring itself. So in other words, the hurricane didn't destroy Lalo. What it did was it damaged it, but created the opportunity for it to restore itself. And so then we went to Turn Island, that man-made island that is now covered with sand, aircraft can't land, and nature's taking over. The seabirds, thousands if not millions of seabirds are there, burrowing, living there, surviving. And it was extraordinary. So in the end, we were privileged and gifted to be in this experience where those of us on this canoe, by its values, really has, especially as students of navigation, that depend on the life of the sea to help us find our way across the Pacific. That we inherently believe that the health of ourselves and our families are dependent on the health of the natural world that the earth provides. And Papahānaumokuākea becomes our school because it's left alone. That we found that nature, and probably the most important ability for nature to renew itself is when we leave it alone. That if we leave it alone and let its miracle of life regenerate itself, it will. And so that lesson of being able to go home as we are now and remembering our role in making sure that our footprint in the places that we live is as small as they possibly can be. And this school that we see is not just for us in the canoes, but I really think it's a school where so many people don't even know that Papahānaumokuākea exists. That this is such an extraordinary school of being able to understand nature at its best, understand the ability, that miracle of restoration, understand that restoration can be achieved if you leave it alone. And that equation is fixed into all of us that are here on these two vessels. And our job is to go home and to share the story. To share a story about why is Hawaii so special? Why are our islands really extraordinary schools, not just for us, but for the earth? Why we should come home and aloha and celebrate and support all those who are doing good work, whether it's in the fish ponds, whether it's in our watersheds, whether it's in the coral reefs, whether it's down the halls of our universities, whether it's in the classrooms. All of these teachers that have such an important moment in shaping the thinking and the values and the dreams of young people. And our future job is to take people up there, to continue to build this relationship and get teachers up there and get administrators up there, get children up there. And there's no better way, in my humble opinion, than on the va, on these canoes. To sail it in the old way, the way of our ancestors, and keep exploring. Some would say that the time of exploration's over. We got to the top of Mount Everest. We went to the bottom of the sea. No. Maybe the time of exploration is just beginning. That our job is not to conquer something, but our job is to figure out how to live well within it. And there's no better school, in my humble opinion, than the Hawaiian Islands. It was an extraordinary voyage. Everybody's changed, and we're looking forward to come home and share with those that we love. Thank you. Mahalo.